All right, what's up everybody? Welcome back to Make It Custom. This video today is another one on one of my favorite subjects. This is hammer forming. Today we're actually gonna be hammer forming with a lot heavier steel than we have in the past. So I'm gonna show you how to make a hammer form from 3/8 steel using pretty simple tools. You could do what we're doing today with a drill, a grinder, a file, and a bunch of elbow grease. I'm using a few extra tools than that. I'm using a torch in this video. I'm using a press in this video. But for the most part, I'm trying to show you guys what you can really do and how complex you can get with a hammer form using steel and relatively simple tools. So today's project is a battery box from my G10 van. Somebody had mentioned in the comments when we were replacing the rust on that inner fender that the battery box was really rusty and we should make a video about that. I thought, why not? I could buy one. You can, okay, I didn't know that I could buy one until after I made this. Wouldn't have changed anything. But you can get a, offshore version of this for 18 bucks. And I spent a lot of hours. The whole point is to show you kind of the different techniques that you can put into a hammer form to get different shapes. Like we've got some pretty unique things here. We've got some little notches in here that actually strengthen up the battery hold down on the one side. We've got a couple of beads here. There's some stretching in this radius. There's some shrinking in this radius. And there's a pressed, depressed portion of the center of this battery box. So I think you guys are really gonna like this one. I tried to pack this video with information on hammer forming so that you can not only build this part, but any part for any car that you can't buy those pieces for. So that's kind of the whole point of this, is not anything to do with the battery box per se, but so that you can hammer form parts for cars that you can't buy. And you can do it at home with simple tools. So let's get into the video, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, click subscribe, hit notifications. Let's do it. All right, so today we are going to hammer form this piece with simple tools. I love hammer forming. This is just a battery box for one of my vans, but somebody in the comments had mentioned, hey, maybe next time you could fix that battery box, and I think that's a great idea. They're hard to find that are in good shape. I'm not even sure if you can get these in reproduction. Every van I've had has had a rusty battery box, and part of the reason I think is acid that drips out of the battery or whatever, but it just collects and has nowhere to go. So I'm going to hammer form this today out of 16 gauge material. And when we work with thicker material, it is nice to use something harder than wood. You can use hardwood. I've seen guys do it. I've done it myself. But for this particular one, I'm gonna use 3/8 plate. I did buy a brand new piece to make this. It was about 50 bucks Canadian, so maybe 35 US or something like that. Steel's expensive right now, but I would suggest just trying to find that kind of material and have it around. I usually do have pieces around that are either from the scrap yard that I bought by the pound or whatever, because we're just hammer forming, we're gonna beat it up. So it doesn't need to be, brand new material. So what I'm gonna do first is just have a look at this battery box and look at all the provisions. Like if you're gonna redo this, you don't need to go and make the beads that are in here and the extra little notches that are in here, but I'm going to do that today. I wanna show you that you can do any of that stuff pretty simple. So we're gonna do it step by step. We're gonna take it slow. The first thing we're gonna wanna do is create a template of this and do this lip. Actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. I wanted to show you. They've got these little notches, like right on this broken edge. They've got these little notches, and this is just for strength. Okay, so that's something that they did when they designed this stamped piece. And with hammer forming, we can put those in like pretty easy. I'm gonna show you. As well as those beads. We can do that with simple tools. You don't need a bead roller, whatever. This bottom section, I'm actually gonna show you how to press form it. I don't think it's necessary to have that for a battery, right? But they did it for probably strength purposes, I would assume. I don't know why they did that, but I'm gonna do it today. I'm gonna show you with a press, or maybe we'll try it with a big, huge sledgehammer, but let's get into this right now. I'm gonna start with a template and we're gonna go step by step creating that piece from scratch. Okay, so I got my template cut out, and like I said, this is gonna be a step-by-step process. So the reason why I cut the center out is because after we hammer form around the lip of this, like I'm gonna keep this piece solid, I'm gonna cut it out of 3/8 plate. We're gonna make two pieces to sandwich, and our first step is to bend all these edges over. Well, our first step is to grind the radiuses and stuff into the piece that we cut out of this 3/8, and then we are going to hammer form the lips over, and then we're gonna cut out the center of our hammer form and use the center piece, which will look like that, to press down through to make that lower piece. So sounds simple, it sort of is, but it's just a little bit of effort. So first thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna call this a simple tool, guys. I know not everybody has one, but before you buy a welder or anything else, like if you want to cut thick metal, anybody could cut that with an angle grinder. You could definitely just slice that up with an angle grinder. Using two sides here, you don't have to cut, just cutting that out. You could do that with an angle grinder. I'm gonna do it with a torch, just because I find it easier. I'm gonna use a torch and a grinder and a drill press, and that's all we're gonna need. And then either a big hammer or a press to do the centerpiece, but pretty simple stuff. Yeah, let's get cracking. Okay, so my number one tip, if you're gonna freehand torch anything, I'm gonna try and do this freehand without even a guide bar. I just want you to understand that like the torch, if you're not familiar with it, it's an incredible tool that's amazing at doing so many different things. One of the things is cutting heavy plate, you know, heating bolts, like all kinds of stuff. You can't live without a torch. Like grinder, welder, drill press, and the next one's torch. If you don't have one, I see them all over Marketplace for, you know, 300 bucks for a whole torch set. I feel like that's it's money well spent. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna brace myself and I'm gonna try and, you know, try and see if I can follow the line on a test run the whole way without having to stop. You know, that's how you know if you're gonna be comfortable and be able to complete a line. You can just keep that line all the way. The thinner the material, you're gonna wanna angle your torch head in the direction of travel a little bit, but with 3/8 it's pretty thick, so we can have it just about straight down or tiny bit angled forward and just follow the line. The other thing is that when we're making a hammer form like this, like it's something that we're beating metal against. Like it doesn't have to be, you know, polished or whatever. I mean, if you're gonna use it 100 times, yeah, polishing is great. This can be a little bit rough. Like it's gonna be okay. It's gonna turn out beautiful regardless, you know? So let's get this going. Hopefully my tip's clean enough here. Okay, so I've got a nice neutral flame. Looks like the kerf is nice. I'm just dialing it down a little bit because you don't want too huge of a flame. Oh, I went too far. All right, here we go. We're gonna heat up just a little bit of the edge here. We're gonna start our kerf. Okay, not too bad. Staying a little bit outside the line, giving us room to grind. Now these curves, it gets a little tricky. So in the spirit of being as comfortable as possible, I don't want to push up this way because it's just not natural for me. I like moving from left to right, so I'm going to turn my piece around here. I'm going to start right in from this edge. Where I'm most comfortable. There we go. All right, so let me show you where I'm at with this. This is the bottom plate to our hammer form. The bottom plate is the plate that we are going to massage the metal over the edges to take the shape that we have ground into the hammer form. Now, I just used a grinding wheel, just a rough grinding wheel on my angle grinder, and I used a couple of files. I used one it's a pretty coarse file. This one's really sharp. I got it at a garage sale. It's my favorite flat file. And then I've got a half round file that's seen better days, but that's what I'm using kind of in the rounded areas here. And a file actually like works really good, guys. So like, that's what I mean about simple tools. Guys did this back in the day. They didn't have 3M products that had, you know, 3-inch angle air die grinders and stuff. Like in the 20s and 30s, like, you're using a torch and a grinder and, you know, files. That's just how they did it. So that's why I'm trying to show you, you don't need crazy stuff to do this. I could have easily drawn this up on the CNC and gone, cut this all out, put the holes in it and mapped it all out. And yeah, that's today's day and age. But I didn't even have a CNC till, you know, last year. So this is how I've done it the whole time, you know? And with hammer forming, we're always learning something along the way. Something that I didn't account for that I probably should have because I know better is that because we have this radiused corner here, our top plate does need to be kind of a little bit back from the edge. And the reason being is that when we get into hammer forming the corners, like this part is probably not so important that, that our top plate is cut back a little bit. But if we, you know, are trying to shrink the corners, which is what happens when you do a rounded corner like this, there's going to be stretching that happens in here and then shrinking that happens in here. We need access with the hammer to be able to get, you know, kind of on top and on an angle and into these spots so that we can really get the shape we want. And because I made my top plate the same size as the bottom before I ground it, it's actually too big all the way around. I had thoughts in my head about that. I don't know why I didn't stop myself, but it really doesn't matter. I don't have a ton of time into it. So what I'm gonna do, like I said, you can use an angle grinder and just use a cutting wheel, but for me, I'm just gonna trim this back to expose about 1/4 of an inch border all the way around, a little bit more on the end because of our large taper here. And the grinding I've done on this is eyeballed. I didn't make, you know, templates. Like you could make a template of this curve in a piece of paper and then double check it on here. I'm not going that far. I eyeballed this angle, I eyeballed these radiuses, and then we're just getting it pretty close, right? Yeah, so like you don't need to go crazy here, right? This is already gonna be an incredible panel. You know, as simple as it is, it's already gonna be incredible. And you don't need to polish these edges or do anything. Like a file finish is gonna be fine. And so what's next for me is I'm going to trim this back so that we've got enough area exposed for hammering. I've got my 2 holes here. I've got my center hole, just like this one, 1/2 inch center hole. So that's gonna be aligning our top and bottom dies. I also have this hole punched in here because this was the clamp that locked it in. I'm also going to pick up this hole and this hole because those are all holes I don't have to fill after the hammer form's done. Like having this hole, this hole, this hole, and this hole in this plate, clamping our sheet metal in between the 2 plates, that's almost enough. I'll probably have to run a clamp, you know, here, here, maybe here, you know, a couple of clamps on it, but I'm not gonna drill any more holes in our panel than need to be drilled in there. I'm gonna run those in there for alignment holes. That's also gonna help us out a lot because once we cut the center out to do this recess, now this alignment hole will be gone, but we'll have these 2 to keep our top and bottom plates aligned. So that's what I'm gonna work on next. Like I said, trim this around and pick up a couple more holes and just keep working. All right, so we're getting there. Our hammer form is looking pretty good. I trimmed this back all the way around so we've got some room to hammer this radius and make sure that we shrink our corners. Now I added these holes here, which are, I'm pretty sure these are just factory alignment holes to make sure that this piece gets spot welded in the correct spot from the factory. I think that's all that's there for. I like that they're there so that we can actually put multiple holes in here without having to fill them later. All these holes were already in that piece, which is nice. Then we'll be able to clamp it a little bit and hold it nice and tight together. So what my next step is now that we're looking like this is that I would like to cut this portion. You know, if you're making this piece at home and you don't have a press, you can just skip this, right? Like, this is something that I'm gonna do just because I'm having fun and I wanna see if I can make this really deep recess in there. I don't think I've done anything that deep before with my press. I'm even gonna have fun. I wanna try and put these little beads in it and stuff and just show you that it can be done. My next step is I'm going to cut this out of both pieces. This is, I'm calling this the top, it's not actually the top. This is the bottom of our piece, meaning that it goes in like this, right? So it goes in like that. We'll have to cut this out of here and then push it through to do that. I chose my material wisely for this. I think that there's about 3/8 of an inch depth here. There's about 3/8 of an inch on the side of this. It's about 3/8 of an inch. The depth is about 3/8 of an inch. This is a little bit wider. So once I've got this piece done, I'm going to make a template or add to my template for the lips and what the profiles are so that we can hammer form this piece and make sure we have enough material to do all the little things with it. So that's where I'm at now. I'm gonna cut this out with a torch. I'm gonna do my best. I'm gonna pierce a hole and then just try and use, you know, just do it all nice without screwing it up, because I want to use that centerpiece as the piece that we're going to push through. Also, you can see there's radiuses here, so the centerpiece can be a little bit smaller than the outside. So I'll be able to grind some of this in a radius in that shape, and I'll have to grind my centerpiece in a radius on the underside to push through. We're going to lubricate it. The last time I did a video on press forming, a lot of guys were saying, man, you would have had easier time if you lubricated it. I mean, I still got there, but I'm gonna use that technique today. I'm just probably gonna spray a little bit of lube. It makes total sense to me. I don't know why I didn't think of it before for pushing that through. So we're gonna see what we can do. Let's do it. Okay, so we're getting there. Let me just explain the form one more time here. So what we're gonna do first is we're gonna make our sheet metal template. We're gonna make our piece of sheet metal. It's gonna go onto this form with the holes in it. We'll clamp it with this upper plate. We will then hammer this edge over all the way around, getting that radius and the lip from this battery box. That'll be the perimeter there. And then what we're gonna do, we're gonna flip it over, and we're gonna use this piece, which now got this nice radius on it, as our die, and we're gonna push through. I'm sure we could do this with a giant sledgehammer, so if you guys wanted to try it at home, I'm sure it would work. We're gonna push that imprint down to create that recess. I'm gonna do that with the press, just because, yeah, I'm gonna use the press. I think that one thing that we're gonna have to think about is that this is 3/8 material, and for this wide of a piece, it might need some strengthening. So I think what I'll do is I'll probably run a couple of bars across it to keep it flat, because if we push in the middle, it's just gonna bend a little bit. So we might have to like run a couple bars here and push around a little. I'm not too sure. This is a bit of an experiment for me, because I mean, I've never really done exactly this. We're gonna give it a shot. The other thing I want to mention is that, because I said we were gonna get funky, that's what I'm gonna do next, is I'm gonna just grind a couple of rough beads into my form, as well as make a few rough notches in the form so that we can use a chisel and get those little pieces in there. That's basically gusseting and strengthening this. Your battery hooks under here and needs to be strong. Can't bend, right? It only clamps with the one bolt here. So that's why they put those in there, is just to strengthen up that lip, because it's gonna be holding pressure underneath the battery box. So we're gonna try and get those in it too. Like I said before, this whole hammer forming thing, some of you might think, man, it's ridiculous to go through that much effort for a battery box, but the real point of this video is to show you that, you know, the complicated pieces that you may not be able to get for your hot rod or your restoration project, you know, with enough time and effort, like these skills can help you do this with pretty simple tools. I know I was using my milling machine. I could have used a hand drill. It just would have taken more time. I'm saving time here and there, but please, like, all this can be done with basically a drill, a grinder, and a file will get you by. And I've done that before, like before I had tools. Like, this is what you got to start with, basics, right? It works really, really well. All right, so we got the plate cut. I didn't even bother to clean up the edges because we're gonna be hammering everything over and we're gonna clean the edge afterwards, so I'm not too worried about the burrs and stuff on here. I cut everything out with the angle grinder, nothing special there. These holes are our alignment holes. They are also the factory alignment holes. So we are just gonna assemble this now. So it's gonna go like that. This side down here, because we're gonna fold all this up on our battery box. And then we are gonna take this and we are gonna push it through the center. Now that hole is a certain way. That hole might be a little bit off. Anyway, let's do step one, which is gonna be hammering this lip all the way around. Step two will be pushing the center through. So I've gotta get my bolts in here. Okay. I'm gonna grab another bolt for there, and then I'm gonna just clamp it in a few spots and holding in the vise, and then we're gonna start working it around. Now keep in mind this is 16 gauge steel. Okay, so just for a second, I want to go over this area here. So this is going to have to stretch. You see how it's curved the other way? These, as we're folding it in, we're pushing the metal, you know, towards the end here so that it can actually physically push and shrink that edge for it to be able to come around. It's the opposite when you have a curve this way. You could literally do all this with a ball peen hammer. You don't even need a body hammer for this. But a ball peen hammer, I use the ball end because it's a little sharper, and as you hit, it's going to stretch that material, and it's just got a little bit more weight behind it, so that's why I'm using it. See how it's taking shape so quickly? Just like that. Okay, we are definitely getting there. Check it out. So we've got all these shrunk, all these corners shrunk. We've got these edges stretched, looking really good. I put these little divots in there. Like I said, it was pretty easy. I just notched it out with the angle grinder and then just hit it with what I had, you know? Like, you could just make a piece of metal that's shaped like a 90 and hit it in there. Like, it's not really a big deal. This is just like, I just used the table to do that bend with the, just with the hammer on the edge of the table. You know, we might have to tweak these a little bit. Like, we might have to tweak it once we pop it out of here, but right now at this point, we are ready to push this center through. So we're gonna take our die, we're gonna take this die, we're gonna push it right through. So that's what I'm gonna do next. It looks like that hole isn't right, so my bad. I wonder if I did it to the wrong side maybe? I don't know. I don't know how I screwed up the center hole. It was supposed to be my alignment pin for this, but I think it's gonna end up wanting to align itself as long as we start it kind of nice in the center there. All right, well, here's the moment of truth, I guess. We're gonna give this a shot. Just using one of these plates as just another way of strengthening it up. One of the extra cut plates. And I've got this here. Oh, it just fits. I wanna try and push right in the center of that. I did use a bunch of WD-40 to lube it up. Okay, here goes nothing. Okay, we're at about 12 tons. I see this side's coming down nice. Maybe a little bit faster than this side. We're getting a little bit of a bow in it. I'm up at 35 tons now. The bottom, or the center is flat. These sides are up a little bit. So I'm gonna shift everything one way, do a little more, shift everything the other way. So same thing, go to 35 tons. I don't even think we need to go that far. We're already there. So same thing on this side. We're looking good. All right, let's see what we got. This is the most exciting part. We'll go back to the bench and take it apart. I am expecting there to be, see this little wrinkle that happened here? It's because it's trying to pull material so hard that it like pulled some of that material. Maybe if this was clamped all the way around, or if we had more bolts in it, even 1/4-inch bolts, if we had little tiny holes in these corners and put 1/4-inch bolts there, that could have made it not do that. I don't think it's a big deal though. Still looking pretty good. Same thing happened to this side, but pretty good. I want to take this piece out. Bink. All right, so it's all gooey. Hold on.
Check her out. Oh man, I forgot these guys. I forgot to put those guys in. Okay, let's see where those are. Right there, let's put those in.
All right, check her out. I mean, this thing is looking so sweet. It stayed nice and flat in our form. We got such a deep impression out of the bottom of that by pressing. You can tell that even though, you know, these are not sanded and polished, this is literally just file finished, that it really doesn't affect the surface of this too much. Because we had lubrication on it and stuff. You can see a little bit of imprinting of the file work, but it is nothing. These are all still beat up. I didn't even prep this stuff yet. I just wanted to show you, the raw piece as it comes out of that form, right? Like we could go around easily, file these edges and clean it up a little bit, maybe take some 80 grit to it. But this is as honest as it gets. Like you can see all the hammer marks that are in it. There's nothing where it was clamped, but the edges have hammer marks, right? We could smooth all that out. Those notches turned out really sweet. I think they're so close to factory, like it's not even funny. Like there's our factory ones, right? And there's ours. Da-dun, da-dun. That's nothing. We just ground little notches in and just hammered little things. Like I used to look at stuff like this and go, I have no idea. Like, how would you even do that by hand? That's made in a giant factory press with a, 200-ton press at Detroit stamping plant, But you can make the same thing at home with a little bit of elbow grease and steel hammer forms. You could use aluminum too. If aluminum is easier for you to come by, I know it's easier to cut and grind. You could make this out of aluminum. It would work just as well. It may not last as long if you were to try and do it in a production setting. Like if you wanted to pull 100 of these off of this form, I'm sure you'd be able to do it. With aluminum, you would be able to do it, but things would start to get softer and stuff. But that's pretty much it. There is my $18 battery box. I'm still super proud of it. It's really strong. This is 16 gauge. I'm sure the offshore piece that's 18 bucks maybe isn't quite as strong or as nice as that. I hope you guys really enjoyed this video because this is key stuff and some of my favorite techniques because of how simple it can be. You can all do this at home, as long as you got those tools that I used today, or you probably don't even need the torch, but this is hammer forming with steel plates. It's awesome. All right, well that's it for this video on hammer forming. Thank you all for watching, really appreciate it. I just want to take a moment to do a bit of a shout out to a special viewer. His name's Mickey Mahoney and his dad Eric. They were so generous in offering up a set of porthole boogie van windows that they actually sent them to me for one of the boogie van projects. And I just want to say thank you very, very much. And I haven't opened them yet. So here they are. I'm gonna open them up right now. Eric had mentioned that they were cleaning up. And oh man, this is the dullest knife ever. Hold on. Yeah, they're doing a bit of a cleanup and they had these windows hanging around and so they offered them up and I thought, man, that is just so cool and so generous. I'm not sold on the windows on the van that I've got right now, so maybe these ones will go on it. Eric was telling me that Mickey, he aspires to do YouTube, and I really hope he does, because we love doing YouTube and having the community of people, viewers that are watching like you guys today. And it just feels like we have so much support, and we have the freedom to be able to kind of, you know, do the things that we want to do and share it with our viewers. So I really hope, Mickey, I hope that you do continue pursuing YouTube and whatever passion it is that you have, and share it with the world. I think it's absolutely worth it. So here we go. Some porthole windows from our friends, Mickey and Eric. Oh my goodness. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Whoa. These look like they've never been mounted. They look brand new. They're brand new. Wow. West Custom windows. Oval smoked windows. These are deadly. I love them. Thank you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mickey, Eric, and thank you everybody that's watching. Christina and I just we just love doing this for you guys. So much appreciated. And there's the other one, still wrapped up. Unreal. Unreal. Thanks a lot for watching Make It Custom. We'll catch you guys in the next video. Cheers, everybody. Have a great week.